Okay, we're at the second from final stage. This is the implementation, and some say improve. Define, measure, analyze, improve, control. Define, measure, analyze, implement, control. The improvement, either way, that's where you really have to put together a longer, I would say, longer section of your paper. The analysis is more about, of course, the math or statistics, but the actual implementation, how are you going to do this? How are you going to go about making these kinds of changes? What variables are you looking at? What were the results from your analysis, and what are you going to do with those results? So this is the write-up. This is where you actually have to define and go through the process of how you would make all this happen, right? How you would make this happen. If you were going to install those low-flow faucets in the dorms, for example, you found that there's a significant difference. It'll pay for itself in a relatively short period of time. How would all of this occur, right? You got all the first sections out of the way. And so this should be the longest section of your Six Sigma project and presentation. What will be needed? What resources will you need in order to move this forward? List those out. Define them clearly at what they are, and how difficult will it be to get them? Do you have the support that you need in order to move this through? If it were I'm just using the low flow faucets because I'm thinking about that. Plumber, would they be available? Are these kind of faucets available in the numbers that you need? Would you have to close down certain restrooms at certain times? All of those details that are critical to the end result, to that final, that big bang at the end. That's what we're looking for, that we've successfully completed this project, and all that we set up to get there really did materialize in these savings. That's what the implementation section is about. And so you may have to have a Gantt chart in this section on the project to see how long it would take and the sequence of what it would take, the budget that might be needed. It might have to be sequenced in a certain manner. If it's something that involves construction, there may be a sequence that you need to have drywallers before electricians or vice versa. This might be something major that will take a few months. And so then you got to lay out this Gantt chart. So you might even use Microsoft Project Manager in this section to lay out how you're going to go about getting this thing done. So this is critical. This is where it all comes together. Also, it clarifies what you're doing to others, those around you. These kinds of projects have to have buy-in. So here is the phase where people might be wondering, what is so-and-so doing? Anyway, they've been working on this project, so you'd want to make sure everybody's aware of what's going on. You get buy-in, you make ownership. You make sure that everybody's on board. No surprises where you get some pushback just from the surprise element itself. And so you've taken care of all of those things, and you've laid all those things out in this section, right? Identify some difficulties too that you could run into, and how you're going to solve those difficulties as you move forward. I just mentioned pushback, for example. Say if there were you have some suspicion that X, Y, and Z person might try to squash your project. How are you going to deal with that? How are you going to move this through? How are you going to sell this to those individuals? So there are the human side of getting this project done, and then there's also the mechanical side of what things have to be done in the physical sense to get this project done. All of those resources, things that are needed. That's all laid out in the improvement. Of course, the improvement is the direct function of the analysis. You can't go forward with the improvement unless you've got the analysis that really says yes. this is going to work. So this is how you do it. The ideal situation is where you test it out in your analysis, and that's where you have your before-after relational or your descriptives, and then those results, you tried it out, it worked, and now you're pushing it out through the whole organization, right? Had one student do a fantastic Six Sigma project with clinics, health clinics, and I know nursing is an area that is big on Six Sigma. Healthcare in general is very big on Six Sigma. Obviously, there's a lot of room for improvement in healthcare, just simply because of the cost, right? It has to, you have to lower the costs, and so the situation is where you got, insurance companies making decisions rather than medical personnel, and so a lot of room for improvement, right? And so you'd want to lay all that out, in this section, but in any event, this one person did a project where rolled out the waiting room, having people fill out their paperwork before they went to the clinic rather than when they go up to the desk and then get their paperwork. Send it to home with them. So it turns out that they get all this done. It's streamlined. There's not a lot of people waiting to see a physician. Sometimes there's a physician's waiting to see people because it's not all lined up properly. Everybody doesn't get their stuff filled out at the same time. You got insurance cards and other things, and kids whining, and all kinds of great things happening with waste rooms. I call them waiting rooms, waste rooms. And so what she did is she sent it home as a pilot, and lo and behold, what happened also as a result of that, it eliminated the no-shows because it was a reminder. The person had to fill it out, so it really stuck in their brain that I got this appointment on Tuesday at 3 o'clock. And so there were some kind of other benefits of doing this that were not realized when the project was launched. So, no shortage. But in any event, in the implementation phase, it was to roll this out to all the clinics, right? Before and after, time spent waiting, significant difference, bingo, let's do it, roll it out, perfect. So this is the longest section, so this is your write-up. This is where you spend more time on your slides and more time in your paper. I know how you're going to get this thing done, and I know a lot of you will be estimating what is going to happen because you don't have a job, and you may have to estimate, or the project will take longer than 6 weeks. Bear in mind that a black belt typically takes 6 months or more if it's a legitimate kind of black belt training program. And so with that, we're going to move into our last phase on the next video, and finally that is control.